Hi guys, it's Antoinette the Confident Woman and welcome back to my channel where we discuss all things relating to confident living. If you're new here, welcome and consider subscribing if you like the content. Now, as a follow-on from the first episode of The Scoop, check the description box if you haven't watched the video. And in light of honouring Dr. King, I thought I would use this opportunity to make this video and expand upon a point that I made in the discussion. So unless you've been living under a rock, you'll know that the issue of racism really hasn't gone anywhere. And as a few people like to claim that racism no longer exists, no. People have just become quiet with their prejudice because of political correctness and all that jazz. But in this era where anything goes and anyone can blurt out just about anything, any old crap and get away with it, well, let's just say the lids have come flying off. Anywho, back to the comment I made in my previous video. I said that as long as racist people are having babies, racism really isn't going anywhere. And I just want to clarify so that there is no misunderstanding. I stand by what I said, although I'm open to correction, but these are my thoughts at this current stage and you're free to disagree. But my reasoning, one, racist people are teaching their children how to be racist, so the cycle is just carrying on. I mean, even children as young as my son's classmates have already learnt from their parents, but that's a discussion for another day. And that's why I laugh when people say the effects of racism are not that bad. Like, what? Where are you living? It's already shaping the minds of young children. And I can't believe I'm having to have conversations with a 4-year-old about it. And I'm not gonna lie, it's scary, but I have to keep trusting that God will protect my children and their souls from the filth out there. Number two, people in the world are only going to grow colder and things are only going to get worse. It's partly why I said racist people are not going anywhere, because personally I hold on to my faith in what the Bible says regarding things getting worse in the world before the end of this age. But my focus is, let's just say, for saying sake, that racism isn't going anywhere and things just don't get any better. Is fighting for what's right even worth it? And the answer is categorically yes. Having said all I've said, this does not mean that we idly stand by, cross our arms and do nothing to try and reduce the effects of racism in society. And it should definitely not stop us from pursuing anything that we want to pursue. I'll speak more on this later. So as I've mentioned in previous videos, I've had the opportunity to work with young people, see what they're going through, see what's going on in their minds, how they feel. And a lot of them, and far too many if you ask me, have developed the mentality that they're just not going to bother to pursue something or anything because they know they're just not privileged enough to get it. And I really don't blame them for thinking this way, because if you have to face what they face on a day-to-day, you'll probably think the same. But it doesn't stop me from trying to stretch the way they think, stretch the way they see and perceive things. That it may not be fair, but they have to rise above it. Don't let the negative labels affect you, because they are labels and not who you are, regardless of what society is saying. If, like I said before, racism is not going anywhere and it's remaining the same, are you going to stay angry and stagnant your whole life and not make much of it, or not at least attempt to do something with it because of the inequality? I suppose this is the point I'm trying to draw on. Again, watch my Obama video if you haven't seen it. I also firmly believe that we should never have the attitude of oh well, what's the point of doing something if nothing's going to change? Because you just never know. You never know how your small action could lead to someone else looking at the way they perceive other people, which in turn transforms their attitude. Plus, from the angle of me being a believer, I should definitely not think like this, because in essence it's like I'm rendering God's power ineffective in my life, almost like I'm saying that he can't make impossible situations possible for me. So in a nutshell, and just as Dr. King said, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter. We need to get to that stage where a black or a brown person, regardless of racist people being around, if they want to pursue a particular course of action in their lives, i.e. get that top job, then the colour of their skin should not even be a question as to whether or not they can get it. They shouldn't have to think twice before making that move, or have to work 10 times harder than their white counterparts just to prove that they're capable. So in essence, if people around us want to be racist or may be racist and have their prejudices, those numbers are so low that their racist actions have little to no effect on our lives, because they are so much of a minority. And on the other end of the coin, many will argue that racism is not as bad as it used to be, especially especially if you just look around and see the number of interracial relationships these days, you know that the mindset of people are changing. But unfortunately, there is still a huge number of people that hold prejudiced thoughts and are acting on their prejudice. And if this wasn't the case, then it wouldn't be so prominent in society. A lot of people may not necessarily class themselves as racist, but the prejudice in their hearts towards other races is still very strong. It's alive and it's kicking and it's having an effect. And most people need a heart check to reveal what's actually going on inside. And only Jesus can help them to see the true contents of their heart. But as long as they keep pushing him away, they ain't gonna accept that they're prejudiced. And just as a side note, I'm personally starting to develop the attitude that through Christ and his anointing that can break through any situation, then if people around me want to be racist, let them be, as long as they know that their racism is not going to have an effect on me. It can't stop me from being who I need to be. If God is on my side, he's able to push down the barriers that may oppose me. Okay, so it's all good me as a black person saying all this, but I think for the narrative to really turn and get to where it needs to be, then white people need to start having these discussions and conversations and saying what I am saying. The barrier of ignorance needs to be broken, and many Caucasian people just don't get it, and some of them can't even be bothered to try and understand. And please don't see the word ignorance as me demeaning or coming across as being demeaning, but for what it actually means. Simply put, people just don't know. A lot of white people don't understand what black people are talking about, hence why they don't get the whole fuss. And a lot of the time it's simply down to ignorance, and people need to be taught. And I know in general this is not a nice topic to discuss, and it's probably why a lot of people shy away from it, but I feel that the minute you shine a light on something, you can see it better and you're better equipped to deal with it. Saying that, in our quest to dealing with it, we shouldn't let the issues get into our hearts. We need to diligently guard our hearts. I thank God for my little sister, who very timely reminded me of the distractions of racism when she posted something on Snapchat. Don't let it constitute a distraction to you. Again, acknowledge its existence, but don't let the issues leave you feeling offended. And I think that's where I'm heading with this whole video, because taking offense is extremely dangerous. It leaves you in a worse state than the person who probably offended you and doesn't even know that they offended you. You've heard of that saying that offense is like drinking deadly poison and expecting the other person to die. And I've learned the hard way the dangerous effects of being offended and staying in offense, and I'm just pleading with you not to go down that route. It really isn't worth it. It's so easy for us to be offended, especially when it comes to issues of racism. Have you ever noticed how angry and agitated you can get by just reading about someone else's injustice, or how someone else has suffered another racial attack in the world? It's just like the first step to letting bitterness build up in you. And again, this is not to say that we ignore the issue. I don't think we can ever ignore an issue as huge as this, but we just must not let the perpetrators keep us in a state of anger, resentment and bitterness, because it will only torment you. Now, moving on to another angle of this, the one place that I feel that there shouldn't be any form of racism is the church, but yet we have what I'm calling a lot of ignorantly racist people, like people that don't know that they're being racist or have prejudice in their heart. And this is a place I feel that the conversation really needs to be had if healing is to occur and people begin to appreciate each other's differences, like the colour of our skins, without letting it divide us. Churches everywhere, particularly with predominantly Caucasian people, need to start looking into how they can deal with this issue head on, instead of ignoring it or pretending like it isn't a problem. I tweeted a while ago that I have the most respect for Pastor Robert Morris, who for me was the first white person to effectively address the race issue going on, especially in the church. He has a platform and he didn't mind offending his white congregation to speak words of truth, and that spoke a lot to me about him as a person. He made an analogy, he used a bottle, he made an analogy with a bottle, and he said, I'm going to best describe it how he said it. Like, you got a bottle like this of water and you're seeing, well, for instance, you can see Volvic, you can see this side of the bottle. Whereas I'm seeing, and let me just turn the bottle around, I'm seeing a picture of a man, Star Wars, on this side. But if I turn the bottle this way, all you can see is Volvic. So it's almost like white people, they're seeing Volvic, and black people are saying, oh, but that's not the only thing on the bottle. There's a picture of a man. But the white people on this side are saying, no, but all I can see is Volvic. So the man on the bottle cannot exist. Basically, he was saying, all you need to do is kind of step away from what you're seeing and walk around the bottle. And if you walk around the bottle, you will see the other side. So basically you see the other picture, you see what the other people are saying. I hope this analogy makes sense, because it made a lot of sense to me when he was talking about it. So just because you can't see it or you haven't experienced it doesn't mean it doesn't exist and it isn't a real issue for many people every day. So really the problem mainly is because a group of people are not understanding another group of people, they're not taking the time to walk around the bottle to see the issue. It doesn't become personal to them. It's not their issue, it's their issue. So then they don't proactively stand against it. They don't proactively call it out. And there's just arguing going back and forth as opposed to actually trying to resolve the situation. In addition, instead of dealing with issues in society, looking for reforms, a lot of us are blaming particular groups. And it's like human nature, we like to blame rather than deal with what's in front of us, deal with the cause of the problems or failings in society, issues that are dating back to slavery and like the dehumanization of Africans. So to round up, all I'm going to say is really what I've always been saying. Love is the answer, because love is everything. Anyway guys, peace and love. Until next time, remember it's one step at a time to becoming confident. Bye for now.